Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's edition of Women's Mortgage Network live here on Facebook. I'm Christine Beckwith, the CEO of 2020 Vision for Success, and I have here with me Ashley Miller, the growth manager over at Empire Home Loans and the fabulous marketer that we know her to be for so long. We are super excited to have you here. We are going to be talking today about branding and building on your brand. Don't think that that's a vanilla topic. We are going to turn this upside down on your head. We're glad you're tuning in, or if you're watching the playback, we thank you for taking the time to learn some things from us. What Ashley and I have in common is we've spent many, many years in the mortgage industry specifically, maybe me a few more than her, just from our age perspective, building brands and using the tools around us to get our brand to market. And we're not going to dive into vanilla definitions on branding today. What we're going to talk to you about is how you make your brand convert, how you make your business bring in business through being a brand that's recognizable. Lately, we've been hearing a lot of things in social media around branding, including that it's yesterday's topic. Everybody's got branding down. We don't need to learn anymore. But we're also seeing articles that are popping up now that are saying people are thinking branding is dead. And that's simply not true. It may be that your brand is getting old. It may be that your brand needs refreshing. There is such a thing that we talk about called rebranding, which sometimes people will change their names completely, but sometimes they change their logo, but the name is the same. And there's a refreshing that is going on. But before we dive into some of the tactics, and I'm going to be interviewing Ashley today because she really is a person that has feet on the street with one of the biggest brands, by the way. I got to give a plug to my girl, Julie Yarborough with Empire Home Loans, because Empire was everywhere last year. Their brand, certainly with Ashley's help as well, is out there in every possible way. But Ashley, please tell everybody here, for you, what has branding meant in terms of marketing and bringing the power to the market for the companies that you've worked for?
It is association. I want people, when they think mortgage, that they think Ashley Miller or they think Empire Home Loans. That's what that association should be with your branding. If you think about companies like, I'll use Nike, for example. One of their biggest marketers for the company is the basketball player Michael Jordan, right? So when you hear Nike, you think athlete, you think Michael Jordan, and that's because of that association. So what for me the biggest thing was, I wanted to be top of mind. I wanted to be that household name that anytime that you have a real estate need, mortgage, you think of me, you think of my company.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing up the brand Nike, because Ashley and I were talking offline as we were coming on the studio, and we were talking about, obviously there's the obvious brands. I worked for some pretty big branded name companies in my day. In my first 10 years of originations, my company was acquired 7 times, each company one after the other, mergers, acquisitions, all the way. And I ended up at Bank of America. Now you would think, and this isn't a slam against Bank of America, but you would think at that point, I'm at, the whale has swallowed, our previous brands. You couldn't be more branded. But Bank of America in and of itself represents something. When you get underneath the hood of a brand, what you're seeing is, what do I think of from a consumer standpoint of the problem that I solve if I'm bringing my mortgage to this particular company? And when we look at different types of company names, we think of their service levels. Undoubtedly, we think of what we see online, whether they're giving customer testimonials and all those sorts of things. Certainly, we think that with big brands. We were talking about how back in the day, people would use the term like, would you Xerox this instead of copying this? Mm-hmm. Well, that was the use of a brand. Brand had become so big with the product, it was synonymous. People thought they were Xeroxing when they were copying. And the same is true when we say, well, give me Kleenex instead of a tissue. Well, there's many tissue brands, but we think synonymously with that brand. So really where you're going with your brand is at the beginning of this nice 2025, with a little bit of room still for us to spend some time on our businesses before that big boom is coming that we're all praying for collectively. we are in a great position to ask ourselves, is what we are putting out there going to convert? I don't mind using myself as an example today and telling you that when I built 2020 Vision for Success, I had to name it. 6-7 years ago, I had to figure out what my name was going to be. Really hard to do, by the way. I know everybody that's ever had a baby know what it's like to name something, because if you don't own a company that you're naming, then you at least have done that. That's difficult, right? And permanent. And it's true with your branding. But what we want to talk today about, and my next question for Ashley, is where does the mushroom effect begin from the point of branding? You've named, let's assume you've named your company, or you're working for a company that has a name. How do you take that image, logo, brand, and now begin to take it to the market where it has meaning? What are some of the basic things? Then we'll move beyond the basic things. But where do people start to brand? What do you think the most common things are? Because believe it or not, I bet there's a lot of people not doing the common things as well.
Yeah. So meaning, are you talking about just how do you get your brand out there? Like
Yeah.
I mean, so for me, I mean, I am coming up and have been a part of the digital era for so long. And that there's still a huge focus on that. And technology is growing at a very rapid pace. And so your ability to reach an audience on a much larger scale is different than it was, 15 years ago or whatever, when you were attempting to brand. And so I think one of the biggest things is when you are looking at bringing your brand to market, I think you have to identify a couple of things: is who is your target audience? And what I tell my sales staff this all the time, what are your solutions? So quit talking about your product specifically. What does the product solve? What problems does this product solve? And where does your audience live? Because for me, my target audience, we are all in the social media digital space. So it does me no good to go brand myself in a space where my audience is not. So I think you have to get super clear on those three things, right? So what are your solutions? Where does your audience live? And then how are you going to get that information out to your audience?
Yeah. And I'll expand on even what you're saying. There is a formidable document we use in branding when we're working with clients. And it's the same line of questions and expansion of what you just said. Why did you start your business? How is your business different from your competition? What makes you unique? What are your clients trying to achieve? And how are you helping them do so? What would you like to be known for among your customers? And how would they describe you? These are all probing questions that are asking you to kind of look in the mirror with your company. Eventually, you may end up working for a company that has an established brand. And people come to me all the time, believe it or not, with sometimes tarnished brands for one reason or another. And they're looking to do what we call that rebranding. And it's hard sometimes to kind of go back out and figure out how you're going to turn something upside down. I love a good comeback story, by the way. I'll hook my train to that initiative any single day. My next thing is, when somebody is today in 2025 out there branding, we all, and I'm going to age myself saying this, but you lead with service, right? Your brand is going to have a reputation. If you think of it as like, has its own personality, has its own reputation, what kind of pleasure is your brand bringing to people that want to serve you? Look at your referral networks, for instance. If you're going to be somebody that has sales funnels coming into you, who are the people that are going to refer business to this brand because they believe concretely that the service is going to be excellent when they are sending that business in? Secondly, if you get that going, your service levels are good. How do you expand on it? What was going to age me is that back in the day when I was a broker at my first brokerage, when I was 26 years old, Option One was the largest wholesale lender. And by the way, they were the tchotchke kings and queens of the universe. They're AEs. I mean, I had a collection of stuff that they were constantly bringing. But make no mistake, I sent my business there because they had great competitive pricing and wonderful product and great service, right? So those were the marquees of that brand. In today's market, Ashley, knowing where you are with Empire, knowing what your leaders want to bring forward to the market, what are some of the strategies or things that you think that you're leading with? And I don't want to give away all of Julie's playbook, but I think she's doing it really well, and including Leo and Anthony. I think the brand is doing really well. What are some of the strategies that you put out that allow the universe to realize that this is one of those good ones that attract?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I was lucky enough that I joined an established brand that already had a great reputation. So there wasn't a whole lot of work on my end that needed to be done to get the brand off the ground, right? So I'm here to support the brand, grow the brand. But I think that the biggest component of why Empire has the reputation it has and the success that they have seen is the leaders specifically that are the most outward facing people to the community are extremely authentic. They are authentically themselves. And so when they are speaking to their audiences, whether it be clients, loan officers that are joining the company, potential new hires, anyone that we are talking to about Empire and why we believe Empire is the best place for anyone to come get a loan or to come work here, we are authentically ourselves. And I think, oftentimes with branding, I think people think that it needs to be this really overly polished, I have to fit in a specific box in order to make myself be likable, make myself be more visible. When reality, at the end of the day, you have to be somebody that is authentic, because that's where you're going to make the biggest and largest connections with people, is when you are yourself. I think that we have all either walked into a store or we've done business with a company where it just felt disingenuous, right? There was just some kind of fake factor to it that it just didn't make us feel good. It's that energy levels, right? It's everything we do is just an exchange of energy. And so when something doesn't make you feel good from the inside out, when we're leading, from right here, we tend to pull away from things like that. And we tend to get ourselves drawn to stuff that we can either, one, see ourselves in their shoes. Two, we can connect with them through their story. I mean, storytelling is a huge thing when it comes to branding. And also, do I like this person? Do I get a good feel from this person based off of who they are? For me, I think, something that probably everybody knows about me is I'm a mom and I'm a huge dog lover. I'm an avid dog person. And so, these are things that I connect instantly with people in my community, and we can strike up conversations with perfect strangers. That happens all the time. I connect with people on social media in this industry and we start talking about our dogs. And the next thing you know, that conversation just organically leads to what my end game might be, right? But I don't lead with that. And so I think a lot of the times people tend to lose a little bit of the authenticity to their branding when they're trying to get the brand out there versus allowing themselves to organically connect with people just by simply being themselves.
I love that. And it makes me think of a couple of things that I want to share. Number one, I had this great opportunity. I'll never forget the day, but I believe it was January 19th of 2019. It might have been 2018, but I got asked by Gary Vaynerchuk to interview the top 5 United States marketers on stage for his Agent 2021. And no, it wasn't the year 21, but Agent 2021 at the Miami Garden Stadium. So huge honor, right? I was up there with Molly McKinley. I mean, the names are amazing people. But one standout, John C. Tolbert, who is the president of Four Seasons. They were opening a new hotel, and it was, I don't even know how many billions of dollars for the cost of this in Belize. And the question that I was posing to him was, how do you fill a hotel day one that's costing, $5,000 a night per room? And because he had said that they were sold out for the first 2 years when the day they opened. And I said, how do you do that? Well, obviously Four Seasons is a brand, and it's a brand. Everybody knows what it means. And if I were asked and had a microphone put in my face, what does Four Seasons mean to you? I would be using that and saying, well, I know it's high end, right? I know it's a high end hotel. I know their service is impeccable. I know they have a reputation of having beautiful hotels and beautiful destinations. Those are the things that I would know about that brand. And you know what he said that they did? He said they put an all-out 2-year pre-opening campaign out, and all they did was use 6 rotating images. One was of a man looking at his Rolex. One was of somebody pulling into the valet in like this really high-end car. And so again, the implication of that particular brand, and I'm using this as a metaphor for the audience, or as an example for the audience, is that you just said it. What problem do you solve? Well, I mean, obviously a hotel is a luxury item and we're not talking about mortgages right now, but it does solve to a problem, or it answers to a question. If I want to go to Belize, where am I staying? Well, that's going to be one of the options. They're going to make sure that it has optimization when you pull it up. You know what you're getting when you think of that. And then if you're seeing those ads and you relate to those ads, that's the niche or the bait that's coming in. A couple of other things that make me think about branding is when Subway sandwiches came out years and years ago, it was predicted that they would fail because we didn't need another fast food, and it's considered to be a fast food. The difference was you couldn't go through a drive-through, which kind of makes you question the fast food idea category, but during the health craze, it was catching the wave that you could see everything fresh, right down to the bread being baked. You could pick what you wanted, everything fresh, veggies, everything was on there. It made you feel better than eating other fast foods. Nobody predicted. The competition said they'll never grab market share. They came in by storm and took 40% the first year and over the next few years and hit the pocketbooks of the major brands that I will leave nameless. Whole Foods did this. Whole Foods supermarkets came in. Nobody needed another supermarket. We have supermarkets on every corner. We have our local brand supermarkets. We have the big chain brand supermarkets. Whole Foods was going to come out with a store that had 30% markup on the priced items. The capital investors at the meetings, and I've read articles about this, were like, you want me to invest billions into a national franchise that's going to charge the public more than average for the cost of the goods? And they said yes, because when they enter the building, everything inside it is going to be organic and holistic to the consumer, and they can't find that in a one-stop place, and it's going to have specialty foods they can find nowhere else. And you want to know what? They came in and they grabbed 25-30% market share. So as we wrap up, my last thing coming over to you, Ashley, with all of this in mind, it's 2025. We are competing this year for business. Mm-hmm. What would be your advice for everybody this year in the next 3 to 6 months? We have time to do it. Will we get in front of all these consumers? Because I've been saying, listen, everybody that stayed in this business this year, that have actively been planting seeds, even though it's frustrating because maybe it's not coming back the way it was years ago, it's going to come back. Some of that seed planting you've done this last few years that have been difficult, that's going to come back when people have a palatable position, and they're going to think of the mailers you sent. They're going to think of the social media you sent. They're going to remember that you stayed here when they're ready. What else can everybody be doing to get themselves into a locked-in position to grab great ROI as the market comes?
Yeah, so you have to be willing to build your own communities. I think at this point, I think what we've learned over the last 2 years specifically is the market's not going to come to you. You kind of have to create your own market. And how do you do that? Branding is a huge piece of that, because why would they work with me when they have tons of other options? I can walk out of my office right now and hang a left and there's another mortgage company down the street. So what sets me apart from that person? And I think your messaging needs to be really, really clear. We already touched on this. What problems do you solve for the consumer? And then take it beyond that. Allow your audience to see who you are as a person. Who is Ashley Miller behind the business? What am I more than just a mortgage broker? And so branding, I think oftentimes when we think about branding, we think of it on a level of business. And we forget that there's personal aspects to this too, that your audience needs to be able to connect with you also, because if they have options, they're going to choose to work with me because they like me and they trust me. And how do I create that like and trust? I've got to be able to show up. One, I got to be able to solve the consumer's problems, and I've got to be able to create a reputation for myself that is known as trustworthy and reliable. The ways to do that, I'm just a huge fan of utilizing your social media. We're in a time right now where most consumers are looking you up before they will even get on the phone with you. They want to see who you are. They want to see what you're about. If you don't have a footprint anywhere that someone can come take a look at you and kind of do a pre-review of who you are, then you're going to be missing a whole audience, because they are going to be wanting to do their own research before they actually come to start to work with you. So the biggest thing would be to do that, you want to start creating these networks, creating these communities. Zero in on who you are. I tell people to do this exercise. It's just really simple. A piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On one side are your attributes, and on the other side is your perfect client, perfect referral partner attributes. Dial in like 5 of those and start consistently using that in your messaging, because what you're going to do is you're going to draw, you're going to attract, you're going to bring people into your own community that you're forming.
I love that. Everything you just said. Yes. This has been awesome. And I'm going to just, my last parting words are be visible. Nobody sold anything with an invisible brand. And make sure that you understand that it's really important this year to have fun, to be seen as fun. You hit upon this when you were talking earlier, and I loved this part is when I think of the brand Empire Home Loans, I don't mind saying, I just know people are having fun. A lot of the stuff I'm seeing is fun, and who doesn't want to be having fun? I hope that's true for my brand as well. Like sometimes we just take things too seriously. Yes, we have to solve problems, but let's have fun doing it. The best brands that are in the broker community are in the lending community that I see out there. They're out there doing great things. They're volunteering. They're having a good time while they're doing it. They're solving the problems, and they're very, very visible. So we hope that we've given you some great tips today on branding. Again, there are tons of resources that are available. We ourselves house resources here at Women's Mortgage Network for all of our community. So if you have any private questions that weren't answered during our session and you want to reach out to Ashley and I, just send us a message on Facebook. Stay tuned for next month. We're going to be coming back to you with another incredible topic. By the way, if you're here today and you're watching, please send more women to the Women's Mortgage Network Facebook group. We are a growing community. We are stronger and stronger every single day, month, year in numbers. And we certainly are going to be focused on our growth this year in 2025. We thank you for having us today, Ashley. As always, you're beautiful. You're wonderful. You rock. Keep rocking. I'm going to be watching you this year and cheering you, Julie, the whole team on over there at Empire. Thanks for having us. Have a great day, everyone.